Palestinian is a syndrome. It's a mental illness.
Well, if I was to slap you right now, what are you going to do about it?
Why would I care what colour your skin is? I just think you're an idiot.
For years, Piers Morgan prided himself on not platforming bigots. But then, after October the 7th, something changed, and suddenly he's giving airtime to some of the biggest Jew haters on the internet, but still not giving airtime to Islamophobes. So what's with this double standard? Well, I can explain in one word: money. Since October the 7th, Piers has released 273 videos that mention Israel. These have racked up 250 million views. And I watched all of them. And what I uncovered is chilling. But first, how did he rack up this many views? Well, it's really quite simple. He's developed a shameless formula that he applies again and again and again. So you're probably asking, what is this formula? Well, it all goes back to the late 90s and early noughties when two of his closest showbiz friends, Jerry Springer and Jeremy Kyle, were on fire. The pair were seen as the kings of the talk show, and Piers knew this.
Jerry Springer was the undisputed king of the talk show. Smart, intelligent, a TV icon.
Their formula was to turn human misery into a blood sport, which they then broadcast on daytime television. They dragged some of society's most vulnerable people that were in some sort of conflict or disagreement. They dragged them onto a stage so they could fight it out in front of a jeering audience.
Who's Matty?
Matty's been my friend for like 3 years.
Oh, he's a friend of yours?
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's Matty.
Listen, you need to get it through your head that you're just a passing phase. I'm here for the long run. We cuddle, we kiss. I call him Big Daddy. He's mine.
What are you looking at me like that for? Don't smirk at me, bro.
You're right, boy.
Yeah, boy.
What do you mean, don't smirk at you?
Huh? Don't smirk at me.
Just take a seat. Oh, yeah, sit down.
Oh, what? What are you going to do? Thank you very
You
much.
could be as good a father as you are envelope collector. The world will be open.
Yeah, what?
But over time, audiences grew tired of this act. The public started to see these shows for what they really were: exploitative circus acts that would prey on the poor and the vulnerable for cheap daytime ratings. But as these shows began to fall in popularity, Piers saw an opportunity. He saw his window. He'd seen their successes up close. He saw the views, the money, the raw power of manufactured outrage, and then he worked out how to update this formula so it could reach an even larger audience.
So, if Israel, excuse me, no, you will not interrupt me.
Piers, can you say free Palestine for me?
There is no such a thing as Palestine. It's about time to retire, find a different job. You're not a journalist. You don't qualify even to be a mother.
Wow. I found
You're
it
super evil. You don't mind the deaths of all those thousands of people.
Let's not
evil
descend.
warmongering.
Jake, let's not descend into this.
His formula was really simple. Hijack a trending conflict that's polarizing society, handpick the loudest, most extreme voices, provided that they have a pretty large following. Finally, throw them into the ring, then step back and watch as the chaos that he's created goes viral. Now, Piers doesn't care if his guests are credible, if they're coherent, or even if they're sane. As long as they fight and bring him views, he's happy. And that's because views translates to money. And based on our own channel, we're able to estimate how much money we think he's making, and it's a lot. We estimate that he's easily generated more than $1 million from YouTube ad revenue alone, and then potentially another $2 to $3 million from product placements. He's basically a war profiteer, but honestly, as you're about to see, what he's doing is so much worse than just hijacking a trending story. He's exploiting the world's most viral prejudice. He's exploiting anti-Semitism.
The people that are behind these wars can trace their family lineage back to the Bible.
These are not true Jews. They're this literal satanic cults that
worshipped the Jewish Kabbalah.
I didn't just like wake up and hate Jews one day. You know, like this is coming from the Jewish community. Like the Talmud has 8 genders.
Even before October the 7th, anti-Semitism was exploding online. Celebrities like Candace Owens and Kanye West were making international headlines from this prejudice. But then in the wake of the Gaza war, things really began to escalate, and Piers saw potential. Now, before sharing what he's doing, it's important to provide a little context and to show you the double standard that I was talking about earlier. You see, for almost a decade, Piers refused to platform Tommy Robinson.
Why Piers Morgan not let you have going for a debate?
Because he's a pussy.
Now, while Tommy didn't mince his words, Piers put it a little bit more delicately.
People may or may not know my views on Tommy Robinson. I think he has a long, very ugly record of brazen race baiting. In my opinion, a very open and transparent hatred of all things to do with Islam and consequentially most Muslim.
Are you following? Piers Morgan refused to have Tommy Robinson on his show for almost a decade because of Islamophobia. Now, let's see if he's this sensitive to anti-Semitism.
Well, joining me now to discuss the conflict in Israel and Gaza is a TV host and satirist, Bassem Youssef.
Bassem's appearances on the show generated Piers 30 million views. That's a lot. In fact, it was the biggest guest he's ever had. So let's listen to Bassem Youssef in his own words. This is from a video that the comedian made.
Jewish law permits the enslavement of any non-Jew, white or black, that we are allowed to enslave non-Jewish populations.
I mean, if your book says so, why wait? I mean, why spare the US citizens?
Okay, so unless you have an eagle eye, you probably missed something pretty important. You see, you were distracted by what the rabbi was saying, but if you'd have been paying attention, you'd have noticed this symbol in the top left-hand corner. You see, this symbol is the Korovrat. It's a Nazi symbol. This heavily edited clip was put together by a literal neo-Nazi, and Bassem shared it. But did the rabbi really say this? Of course not. The rabbi in question is Yitzchak Breidowitz, who was responding to a question on racism, which in the unedited video, the rabbi clearly saw as bad.
So racism is inherently a bad thing. It's also destructive morally.
Now in the original clip, the rabbi is dealing with a challenge that the Bible presents to believers, as the Bible seems to permit both Jewish and non-Jewish slaves, and that's what the rabbi was discussing. But his complex answer was cut up by a literal Nazi and then used by Bassem to make the claim that Jews want to enslave Americans. But it doesn't stop there though. Watch this clip where Bassem again makes the claim that Jews, not Zionists, hate Christians.
We are the chosen people. We are the chosen people. God chose us. And you know what really pisses me off about the Christians who repeat that bullshit? They are the chosen people. And I say, like, if you think they're the chosen people, why don't you join them? And this the same Christians don't see what they do in Christians when they go to Jerusalem. They get spit on, kicked by Jewish people who actually despises Christians. This whole bullshit about like Judeo-Christian values, there's nothing called Judeo-Christian. This actually was adapted in the 20th century. It was not meant to be made by the founding fathers or anything. That was like made up very recently. And it was not part of American history, and it was just like increased after the Holocaust, but it wasn't really part of our American culture. And the fact that they openly despises Christians.
And here he is claiming that we control the media.
They say that the media is mostly run by Jewish folks. I don't think that that's...
It is.
They told me that.
It is. All of the corporates, all of the CEOs, but that's a different... But I don't want to go into their intention.
So that was Bassem Youssef, Piers Morgan's biggest ever guest. But he wasn't the only one. In fact, compared to some of the other guests, he was practically a Philo-Semite. He loves the Jews in comparison. So let's race through some of the other people that Piers welcomed onto his show.
Myron Gaines.
Was right about you. See, here's the thing. You guys are way too nice to this fucking
Dan Bilzerian.
And if you read the Talmud, like, you know, if you're not Jewish, you're basically not a human. You're like, you know, like cattle.
Andrew Tate.
My heart goes out to all of you. You know, I'm kind of thinking we should bring the Nazi salute back.
The reason there's attention on Israel for the first time seriously in history is because the Matrix is broken, because they control the Matrix. They control narratives.
Muhammad Hijab.
And the purpose of the Goyim, or the Gentiles, or whatever other pejorative term you want to use with the non-Jews, is that they serve us. Imagine if you believe in this.
Candace Owens.
They have taught us World War II history like we're children. Like, I mean, it's everything they've told us. Virtually everything they told us is either not true or a snippet of the truth or omitting something that would make us question more of their narrative. And they freaked out when I shared a BBC documentary, no less, because they had tried to like wipe this from the universe about how Germans were ethnically cleansed. Following World War II. Like, so there was no war going on. Immediately after, they allowed Stalin's to just go in. And
Poland, Czechoslovakia, they just wiped them off the face of the map.
It's insane. And then to know that prior to World War II, there's a book written by a guy, last name Kaufman, I'm blanking on the first name, where he said it's Germany must perish. Like they literally wanted to get rid of Anglo-Saxons.
This is all just staggering. Let me break it down as simply as I can. Piers Morgan refused to platform Tommy Robinson because of Tommy's views on Muslims. But then when it came to platforming anti-Semites, he seemed to change the rules. And instead of shunning them, he waits for them to get caught up in a scandal of their own. Then he invites them onto his show, hands them a megaphone, and allows them to preach their hate. And the bit about this that scares me the most is that Piers isn't a fringe figure. He's the mainstream. He's a global celebrity that's edited major newspapers. And if someone like Piers is normalizing voices like these, then anti-Semitism isn't just tolerated in society, it's mainstream.